What's going on, everybody? My name is Michael Weer, and these are my top 10 least favorite movies from the year 2019. So the top of the garbage pile to the bottom of the garbage pile. We're going to go 10 through 1. But before we jump into it, I want to say two things. The first thing is that I have made reviews for every single one of these movies that I'm about to talk about. So if you like what I'm talking about and you want to hear a little more in-depth thought on each one of these, then go to my movie reviews and check them out because, hey, I think they're good, and I think you will too. The second thing I have to say is that this is a top 10 list, which means it's unique to myself, and that you are going to have a completely different top 10 list, if you even have one, from 2019. And what I encourage you to do is put that in the comment section down below, and let's see where yours differs from mine or where they're similar. Alright, with all that out of the way, guys, let's jump into the top 10 worst movies from 2019. Alright guys, before we jump into it, I want to throw out 4 movies that could not make it into my top 10 list, but they are bad and they are worth mentioning. So let's talk about Child's Play, Rocket Man, Hobbs and Shaw, and Annabelle Comes Home. Those movies were not bad enough to get onto my worst of the worst list, but they were pretty bad. So with all that being said, now let's jump into the list. Number 10 movie on my list, and I'm surprised it's not higher, but that's how bad this movie list is It, Chapter 2. It Chapter 2 undid all of the great things from the first It movie. It was long, it was boring, it sent everybody on little quests of their own, even though they knew if they were stronger together, so it didn't make any sense. It Chapter 2 was trash. Let's move on to number 9. And at number 9, guys, Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary was another Stephen King movie. Wow, 2 Stephen King movies back to back. Ugh, not a good year for Stephen King. Well, that's not true, because Dr. Sleep was on my best of. So 1 good, 2 bad. Stephen King. But anyway, Pet Sematary, guys, was terrible, had an awful ending. It actually had a good setup for the first 40 minutes of the movie, and then it just got worse and worse and worse and worse, and it was a terrible use of John Lithgow. Let's move on to number 8. And number 8 is a movie that somehow got a sequel that's coming out in 2020, and I don't care about it, and that is Escape Room. Escape Room was a great setup. We all love escape rooms. If you've been to an escape room, they're a lot of fun. If you haven't been to one, I recommend you go check one out. But this is supposed to be an escape room that people could get killed in, and I was like, well, how bad can this be? Oh, it was bad. It was really bad. Let's move on to number 7. Coming in at number 7, guys, The Curse of La Llorona. Now, just like we talked about, Annabelle Comes Home was not bad enough to get on this list. The Curse of La Llorona definitely was. In fact, I'm pretty sure that they just tagged this into the Annabelle universe at the last second. And they're like, well, just do a cutscene with the doll at one point, and we'll make this part of the Annabelle universe, and people will go see it because of that. Now, that worked. I did go see it because of that. Oh, but it was bad. And by bad, I mean, they just shouldn't have done it. And what was up with those eggs? Let's move on to number 6. And number 6, guys, was a Netflix release movie starring Ben Affleck. I really looked forward to this. Also, Charlie Hunnam was in this. And Pedro Pascal, I think he was in it too. Guys, all those mainstream actors, all those great actors, they threw them in there, and what did we get? We got Triple Frontier. Oh man, Triple Frontier was just a mess. The first setup was good. The heist part was pretty good, and then it just domino affected down, not just for the characters, but for the audience watching it. So, let's move on to number 5. At number 5, X-Men Dark Phoenix. This was the final movie in the X-Men franchise, and what a low step in the X-Men franchise. Guys, of all the movies to be made in 2019, this might have been the most disappointing because X-Men, it kind of wavered at first, right? Like, X-Men was a good movie, X2, X-Men United was great, and then 3 was a step down, and then they kind of just did back and forth, right? With Wolverine movies and the X-Men, right? And then they got down to the last movie that Fox was going to put out under the Fox banner, X-Men. They were going to redo the Dark Phoenix saga, and it looked like 2 really good movies they didn't have time to make, so they smashed them into one, and honestly, the only redeemable thing about that movie was the train scene, but even that was not enough to keep it off the worst of list. Let's move on to number 4. Because at number 4 was a director that had made the worst movie last year. That's right, Hereditary. That was the worst movie of 2018. Fight me. Not the worst movie in 2019. That goes to something else. But the number 4 movie on my list is Midsommar. Midsommar had the potential to actually be great, and the director just shouldn't make movies, my opinion. Let's move on to number 3. And number 3, guys, is the movie Black Christmas, a movie that didn't need to be made, and I refuse to talk about it anymore, so let's move on to number 2. And at number 2, guys, is another movie that should not have been made, and that is Cold Pursuit. Cold Pursuit was what you get when you have bad directing, bad acting, bad storyline, bad music, everything. Literally everything that could be wrong with the movie is this movie. There is not one redeemable thing in this movie from the beginning of it to the very end. Cold Pursuit is one of the best marketed worst movies ever, in my opinion. I loved the trailers. I was all in. I was like, man, this is going to be great. And then I realized not only was it not great, worst movie. And it was the worst movie of 2019 until the number one movie, which we'll move on to next. Alright guys, we're down to number one. The worst movie in 2019. The worst movie to be made, the worst movie to be filmed, the worst movie to be shot. The Lighthouse was horrible. Trash wins the award of trash in my opinion. The Lighthouse was just awful. The Lighthouse was bad acting. The Lighthouse was bad directing. The Lighthouse was bad filming. The Lighthouse was bad anything else you want to name. Literally anything else. And it had entirely too many sequels. Way too many sequels. Lighthouse is not only everything wrong with film, but it's everything wrong with mainstream critics. Because every one of them said, oh, The Lighthouse is a masterpiece, you've got to go see it. And when I went and saw this movie, I was like, what did I just watch? Like, not in a good way. Not in like a, oh my god. It was like a, oh my god. You know, there's a difference there. Yeah, The Lighthouse is the worst movie of 2019, and it's the worst movie ever made. There, I said it. Until next year, when something pisses me off too. But for now, worst movie I've ever seen in my life. The Lighthouse. And that's my list of top worst movies in the year 2019. If you enjoyed this list, man, give it a like, give it a share. If you've got a different list, again, make sure you put that in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.